Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chatting with Lady, and I got special guest Noah. Hello, Noah. Go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers.
Hi, lady. As you said, my name is Noah Healy. Was born and raised here in Charlottesville, and I'm a recreational mathematician working on new designs for financial markets.
Interesting. All right. And give us a little bit about some of the things that Noah likes to do.
My major pastimes are actually reading and doing math, although um, these days a lot of my time is spent on this project.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that project.
Well, I've been fighting with the patent office for about a decade, but basically about 10 years ago now, I was solving a math problem. Like I said, that's what I do for fun.
Hmm.
And this particular math problem had to do with information theory and communication theory, a way to create communication that would actually drive consensus across a network. So get a whole, like if Twitter caused people to agree with each other instead of disagree with each other. Um, so I found an approach to that problem and then applied that approach to financial markets, and this thing fell out. And when I wrote some code to test how it scaled,
Hmm.
um, it scaled hundreds of thousands of times better than the existing system scales. So I I worked out the economic consequences of the general adoption of the technology so that they were profound, and started working on the problem of trying to figure out how to explain this game theory, calculus, computer science, like Frankenstein, to the people that actually, move the money around.
Mm. Mm. So, generally, what is the system used for?
So commodity markets. Commodities, if you've ever seen Trading Places, that they explain it quite well there. But commodities are products of uniform quality. So, like when you go to the grocery store, if you buy milk or eggs, you don't really know which farm produced the milk and those eggs because the system basically just gathers up that those products from many places and runs them through a quality filter so that they're at least good enough, and then combines them together into these packages. And in theory, you could buy a dozen eggs that come from a dozen different farms and it wouldn't make any difference to you because all those eggs are good enough to be eggs. um, in that case where you have this bilateral anonymized filter. So the buyers don't need to know where the product's coming from because it's the quality they need. And the sellers don't need to know where the money's coming from because it's also the quality they need. Then you can create very efficient markets. And these very efficient markets are actually what underpins the entire economy of our country and the world. You've heard about things like the oil market.
Mhm,
And gold market gets mentioned sometimes, but
mhm.
many of the industrial important metals and foodstuffs, and building materials and even clothing materials have these marketplaces that are accessed globally, and figure out and publish what the price of cotton and wool and wheat and rice and copper and iron are to the entire world.
Oh, wow. So it'll kinda help with, like, maybe an economy increase?
Oh, absolutely. So in this country alone, roughly $1 trillion a year is spent just operating these marketplaces. So that is money spent to gain goods that doesn't go to the people that actually made the goods. It goes to the people that are involved in keeping the markets functioning. Um,
Mm.
$1 trillion is s- between 4 and 5% of the entire economy.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so imagine cutting that number in half. you'd add 2% to the entire economy.
Wow. Wow.
And that would be an ongoing thing. You'd add an extra 2% to the entire economy the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that, uh, until people figured out how to come up with a new way to parasitize our system.
What made you create something like that? Like we're go ahead.
Well, like I said, it's actually my hobby to think about these things, and I think about a lot of different computational problems, and the computational problem of how to get people to agree on the internet, particularly in an environment where more and more of the internet's going to be machines,
Yeah,
be struck me as a very important thing to be thinking about. And so I was lucky enough to stumble over a few pieces of the solution.
interesting. So it's like a software that
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No, you're fine. I was just asking. So it's like a software basically that we would use to repeat that.
Yeah. So the core of the code is about 300 lines long. That's what it takes to do the various computations. And the basic idea, you could set this up as, say, a website, or if you're in a slower, lower tech environment, you could do it with a post office.
Oh,
But
okay.
there are effectively three different roles that are available within the system that is then operated by a fourth role, the operator. And so the operator just has this hunk of code that allows the other roles to do what they do. And the roles in the system are producer, people that are bringing goods to the marketplace;
Okay.
consumer, people that are bringing currency to the marketplace; and negotiator, people that are bringing information to the marketplace. So the thing is, in any deal, there's the good or the service in some cases, the
Right.
currency, and the information. So again, like when you go to the grocery store, they've got the goods there. They have some of the information there. They've got price tags on things.
Mhm.
You've got the currency, but you have some of the information too. You look at those price tags and make decisions about what you want and what you don't at the prices that are there. And
Correct.
so the combination of the information they put out and the information that's in your head produces the deal that you get at the checkout counter. What I've done is created this negotiator role so producers and consumers, and even, and this is the thing that gets really wild once you've got this really large, globally competitive market space, parties. So government officials,
Mhm.
research scientists, um, meteorologists,
I
uh,
well,
all sorts of people could have information about where things might be heading, and so they can all come into the information marketplace, act as negotiators, and get the system to behave in a way that's in the benefit of all the producers, all the consumers, and all the negotiators.
I follow. Okay. And do they have to purchase the system from you?
So right now, the patent hasn't been granted, and that's a crazy story. We can get into that if you want. But as that's the case, the system is currently under an open source license.
Okay.
Um, so people can take a look at the software and look at the white paper and build up a market using that open source license if they want to. If they want to pay for my help, then they're free to do that. If they don't want to pay for my help, they're free to do that as well.
Okay.
Uh, should the patent be granted, that would give me, over the course of its lifespan, the ability to stop people from using the technology inside the United States and its territories. So, one, most human beings don't live in the United States and its territories. So,
Right. Right.
foreign countries, and right now, every project that is attempting to get itself off the ground, incorporating the technology, is in a foreign country, wouldn't have to care one way or another about that. If you were doing it domestically and you
Mhm.
didn't want me to be on board, and then the patent office finally got itself to be sane, then you might be in some trouble, and we might have a conversation.
I
But yeah,
follow.
that's the current state.
Now, could they use it for digital currency?
Uh, Two of the projects are actually planned to be on blockchain. So there are there are aspects of it that are appropriate and other aspects that are inappropriate for different kinds of existing digital currency markets. Many of the existing digital currency markets are very transparent plays to create Ponzi schemes, and
Yeah.
it's very bad to have an effective pricing model for your Ponzi scheme, because the effective pricing model will basically just reveal that you're a criminal before you get any of the money. So so it's not great for
We don't
those.
want that. Okay, I follow. So you're okay, so you will be building something though for that or no?
Um, well, so I'm looking around for people to license the technology or partner with,
I
to get things off the ground.
okay.
But yeah, there are people working towards fundraising and building some of these systems.
Okay. 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 So if they were interested, right, in investing, what is it? What are the benefits that comes with investing in the software?
So the benefit of operating is that it is the most profitable business model in the history of the world. Actually, um, again, to throw some numbers out there, there's this company called the CME Group, which
Mhm.
handles the majority of the commodity trading in the United States and also controls the software that is the premier commodity market software on earth. So they're the benchmark for basically food items and a lot of other building materials for the entire planet. The price of rice, wheat, and corn are all set in Chicago, and not anywhere else on earth.
I, I,
They they earn roughly $4 billion a year in revenue, and they have significant costs of operation. So that's not mostly profit. And as I said, they're handling the transactions for a system that ultimately costs its users that are paying for it around $1 trillion a year. So remember when I said before, if you took that $1 trillion and cut it in half, our economy
mhm,
would start growing an extra 2% every year, like for
mhm.
a century or more. Well,
Yes.
what if, in addition to doing that, instead of taking 4 billion out of the 500 billion that's out there, you decided to take 250 billion of the 5 billion that's out there? With this technology, you could set yourself up so that's in fact what you would get. Um, you could take less if you wanted to, but you could take 250 billion, no problem. And because this system is so much more efficient, rather than spending very nearly $4 billion a year to just keep it operating. So, for example, the CME Group actually produces more than a petabyte of information a year. Peta is the next number after Tera, so 1,000 hard drives get filled up every year. They're filling up like 3 terabyte hard drives a day there.
Wow.
And they need, like, selling that information is one of their major revenue sources, and that's not cheap either.
Mhm.
The bandwidth to push out multiple terabytes per day to thousands of clients is enormous. Um, and so with this system, that information would reduce to megabytes, probably hundreds of megabytes, which is at a level where they could pretty much operate off of like home internet levels, which is obviously considerably cheaper. They also maintain uh, highly secure, which they would have to remain highly secure, but very numerous uh, high end computer processors in order to deal with this data. With the
Mm.
data level coming down quite a lot, much less needs to be done. The timing requirements of my system are vastly less stringent as well. And that would also considerably cheapen the build and other costs of operating. So they could cut their operational costs at least by 70%, probably more like 90%, while
Oh,
at the same
wow.
time increasing their actual revenues by several thousands of percent if they wanted to, which would do just insane things to their profit margins.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or some third party that had deep enough pockets could build out along similar lines. And while you would not be able to open up with tens of billions in revenue, you would be able to swiftly take their market share away from them by underpricing them by hundreds of billions of dollars. And as their customer base moved from using them to using you in order to receive that hundreds of billions of dollars themselves, you would be you'd gain, you'd make money faster than they were losing money.
Wow. So, say for instance, I was interested. Explain to me the steps that I would take to join or to invest, right? Or to help get this software out there and get investors or people that were, interested in partnering with you because this sounds huge.
Yeah. Well, so one thing I do have, I have a petition out dealing with the patent, and so sort of as a first show of support, you can go sign the petition. Um,
Mm.
that's up on change.org under a link CDM. That's what I call it. That's the acronym I have for the system, Coordinated
Mhm.
Discovery Market, CDM underscore patent. Uh,
Mhm.
and and so that's a great step for support. Second step would be reaching out to me personally. My email is, I'm pretty open, noahphealy@yahoo.com, or you can connect to me on LinkedIn, and we could get that conversation rolling about what could be done to advance this cause forward.
Okay, so um I heard you say sign a petition. Any reason why the petition has to be signed? Like, is the government trying to block you?
Yes.
Huh.
Yes. Yeah. So I applied for a patent for this technology.
Okay.
Um, the full patent application went in June of 2016. And in September of 2019, after a few different attempts to establish reasons why I shouldn't be allowed to have the patent, there were various attempts at prior art, 100% of which they acknowledged were not relevant. And so they granted the patent,
Mhm.
or they granted the notice of acceptance to then give the patent. I got that. My examiner's supervisor then called my attorney to inform him that she had sort of heard through the grapevine that they probably were just going to ignore that notice of acceptance. This is not the procedure for
Oh
doing
my,
this kind of thing.
right. Oh boy.
You know, it's like if if you're like applying for your driver's license, and you've gone through all the steps and you got your picture taken, and you're going over to stand in the line, and then like the guy comes out from behind the door at the DMV and comes up to you and is like,
Mhm.
I don't think we're going to give you your driver's license, but you didn't hear it from me, and then goes back behind the door, and then you're just standing there. So like that happened. So we
Oh,
apply for the patent. because they
Okay.
didn't withdraw it. Like there's a procedure for doing that. They didn't do it. We apply for the patent. The due date kind of comes and goes. We
Okay.
reach back out and we're like, okay, here's our acceptance, here's our application, what's going on?
Uh-huh.
And they said, yeah, we're not doing it. You have to give us a little while. We get back to you with why. We don't know why we're not doing it yet.
I mean, aren't you gonna undercut them
Well,
or no?
so the government is heavily involved in the economy in all sorts of ways.
Okay.
Uh, and and they are fairly intimately connected to the existing status quo.
Okay.
And so this would change the existing status quo in some very large ways. On the
Okay.
other hand, from a political perspective, uh, incumbents, when the economy grows like 4% or higher, pretty much always get reelected. And when they choose to retire, like the other person from their party gets reelected when the economy is doing that well. When the economy is 1% or lower, that's when incumbents have a really hard time. Um,
Mm,
if you add 2 points to economic growth in this country,
mhm.
it would do wonders for the political career of everybody that currently has a political career. Also, the government itself has constitutional and other explicit, you know, uh, uh, claims that their
Mhm.
purpose is, in fact, to promote the general welfare. That's actually one of the phrases that our founders used to justify the existence of governments in the first place. Uh, this promotes the general welfare more than any proposal that presently exists in the United
Mhm.
States. So there's that. However, you know, we've gotten ourselves up to 2020. They come back with an objection that
Mhm.
is not mathematically supportable. Um, it takes some doing to dig into, but they effectively claim that one and two are the same number. Uh,
Follow.
so after I explained to my attorneys, which took a while, because like I said, it's a sort of an involved piece of knowledge, but it happens to be what I'm good at. Um, my attorneys put together a brief and said, if you want to defend this in court, we're happy to destroy you, but what you're
Oh.
saying is nonsense.
Mhm.
So they reversed course, and in 2021, note we're 2 calendar years out, but in February 2021, I get my second notice of acceptance. We apply for the patent again. 3 weeks later, they withdraw that notice of acceptance. This time they follow the procedure, although not really, because it's not procedure to do it twice. But anyway, the supervisor talks to my lawyer again. She says that this reason that they're giving this time, and the reason they gave is that if the patent were granted, I would control the economy, and they're not allowed to do that. Uh, she said, "We understand that this is overblown because he wouldn't control the economy. It's not. It's powerful. It's not that powerful." Um, but this isn't really our words. We're under orders from people we're not allowed to talk to you about. And this is more or less what they said. I mean, we can't really testify to what they said because we don't understand what they said, but this is the best we could do at what they said. So here you go. If you object to this, and you should, we're not going to reverse our decision because it's not our decision anymore. It's the decision of these other people who we can't understand. So, take it or leave it, but this is where it stands. We can't say yes. Good luck. Uh,
Wow.
so I opened up a case with my congressional office to have them investigate and see maybe they can find out what's going on.
Mhm.
It turns out that they couldn't find out what's going on. It took them longer to get a response than any time in the multi-decade history of the chief of staff of the congressional office to ever get a request out of the bureaucracy. The request that
Wow.
came back was a terse form letter, which is something he's never seen before, that actually falsified the timeline. They left out the whole 2019 acceptance altogether. And it also contained sort of a PS at the bottom, uh, claiming that under patent office policy, they would only communicate through a single channel. and so they would never talk to the congressional office again. This was news also to my congressional office that has handled multiple cases and is actually handling other cases with the patent office during my case that did
Mm.
not receive this we don't talk, we don't talk about patents here at the patent office treatment. Um, I appealed. uh, I got another connection to the patent office that put me on to the ombudsman. They said it was probably too late since I'd filed an appeal, but I could give it a shot anyway. I talked to the
Mhm.
ombudsman's office. They had never heard of anything like this happening to anybody else, but said that they were powerless to help with anything now that it had gone to the appeal phase.
Okay.
Um, and so the appeal, it took a few months, quite a few. But in July of 2023, the appeal was scheduled to be heard in July of 2025. So in a year, uh,
I mean, that's good though. I mean,
well, yeah. Progress is sort of happening.
yeah.
Uh, I like the brief my attorneys have put together. They basically have pointed out that the patent office is in violation of the Constitution, the law, and their own procedures,
Mm.
and basic reason. Um, so they have no legs to stand on, and everyone that we are aware of at the patent office is on my side. So, like if you go into court with a speeding ticket and the people testifying on your behalf are the arresting officer and the court bailiff and the judge,
Mhm.
you don't know what's going to happen, but
Right.
hopefully the right thing happens.
Right. Mhm.
So anyhow, that's my patent office story, and so fairly recently this year, I got a petition started to try to gather up sort of names and people that would like to either register protest at this ridiculousness or support the project.
I follow. So, is there um like for the petition, what is it aiming towards for them? Like, what is it aiming towards for them to do?
Well, the notion would be just to, in sort of the first place, to have another card to play when it gets up to the point. Like obviously they have no particular problem messing with me personally, but if there's a very large number of names, political systems tend to get more and more tetchy about messing with stuff that lots of people care about.
I follow.
Uh, Another point is that if that name list gets long enough, then that becomes a useful mechanism in its own right. So Robinhood, for example, uh, came up with their model, and they couldn't get funded, which is another problem I have actually. That's why I'm looking to license and partner with other people. Uh, but what they managed to do was get a sort of mailing list going of people that would want to sign up for such a product if it existed, and they got 10 million names on that list, and were then able to take that list of 10 million names and say, hey, this is a fundable project because look, there's this built-in customer base. So it's a little bit like, well, you're a streamer. If you've
Okay.
got 5 or 6 followers, even if you were monetized, you would get zero money. If you got 50 or 60, still no good. If you've got 5 or 600, stuff starting to make sense. If you've got five or
Mhm.
6,000, then a couple bucks every once in a while. 50 or 60,000, that's a job. 5 or 600,000, that's a really good job. 5 or 6 million, and every step you go, it's not 10x every 10x. It's a lot more than that, and it grows as you grow. And if you're up in the 50, 60, Joe Roganish numbers, then it's transcendent at that point.
Mhm.
So you know, um, I'm at 201, I believe, signatures right now, which is not bad for just a guy, pitching stuff over the side.
Yeah.
But if that number turns into a very, very serious number, then very, very serious things might start happening, even if the federal government doesn't want them to.
Right. I follow. I follow. Okay. So it's not that they're not supporting the software that you're trying to bring, it's just the way it was sent was not formatted the way they expected it to be.
No, no, no. They're actively blocking whatever's happening.
Why?
That they, the people who made that decision, exist at a level where the people who are relaying the decision to me aren't allowed to talk about them. So I don't have that information. And when I attempted to look for that information, my congressional office was told to buzz off. So
No way.
so I would need a level higher than my congressional office to crack this thing open.
Okay. Okay. I see where this is headed. Okay. All right. So, a person like, okay, say I just want to know from all angles here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I opened up a grocery store and I wanted to come to your portal as a consumer. What do I do? Like what do
Uh, well, uh, so let's say there's commodity there you want to buy. Let's say we've created commodity produce. There's like
okay.
apples and oranges markets, things like that.
Yep.
And you want to buy things like apples or oranges. So you would go in and take a look at what the pricing looked like.
Okay.
Uh, and you'd be going in through the consumer door.
Okay.
And so you would see what the price for delivery looks like and say, yeah, this is how much I want. And you'd put the money in your account in escrow to purchase that. And the system would take that on board with everybody else that wants to buy that day and take in all the people that want to sell at the deal that's on offer, and aggregate out and say, okay, cool, you know, here's where it's coming from. These guys are shipping you this stuff. Those guys are shipping you that stuff. It's in those warehouses. It's in these warehouses. You'd go check and get it all confirmed. You'd let the system know, hey, I got my order, and then the system would release the money that you paid for the things to the people that you're paying it to, and it would track all that for you, so you don't have to figure out that Farmer John's getting $50 and Farmer
Right.
Fred's getting 85. Like, that just takes
Yeah.
to take care of. And that's it. You get your deliveries and you go with it.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Um I opened a clothing store. I can come to your software as a consumer and purchase from the best vendor.
Well, as you get to products that are more and more specific, you get less and less value out of a commodity marketplace. So clothing stores, have very specific outfits from very specific designers that have very little intercompetition available.
Mhm.
It would be more appropriate for, say, a textile mill to be acquiring raw wool or raw cotton,
I
or
follow.
for something further down the line to be acquiring cloth. But those sorts of businesses do access markets today, and markets like mine could replace those markets and would work in a very similar fashion. You could even be in a position where you could be operating a factory and, say, have one market that for, say, raw wool, where you were
Okay.
turning that into like thread and cloth, and then
Mhm.
there could be another market in graded, you know wool, cloth, grades that you would actually be selling into. And so
Okay.
you could have two different markets that were effectively your entire input and output stream.
Okay. So what kind of um like okay, so I do have a lot of people that are in business, right? That follow. So say for instance, in the Chicago area is huge. I'm actually from the Midwest, so I had a lot of people on one of my pages. Is a lot of them are in the Midwest Chicago area. So say for instance they were to watch this, right? And I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm still lost. But I'm I'm catching on, right? And they reached out and said, "Hey, Shakayla, I need to talk to him." Like, what kind of businesses that you're looking for that should want to partner with you or even
So
invest?
yeah. So what you're really looking for is businesses that either produce or consume this commodity product. So farms, everywhere in the Midwest, you got farming coming out of your ears.
You do.
That's a huge piece. Mines, foresters, commercial fishermen, those sorts of things. But also in the Midwest, you got a hell of a lot of manufacturing.
Yeah.
And a lot of manufacturing has gotten to the point where it's about putting together components that in some cases are very highly specific, but in many cases are also now commodity product. People are making bolts and nails and stuff like that that
Yeah.
many people are buying. And so people in any of those types of businesses, either on the input or the output side, could gain a lot from getting a commodity market set up around their system and simplifying either their sales or procurement process.
Okay. All right. And if I want you to send me the link to where people that can sign the petition are interested if they wanted to sign. So, we can get that going. And then, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that before I forgot, because I know you said you had a petition. So, we definitely want to push that. But I just want to make for sure that I know what I'm saying. If somebody say, well, hey, I watched that and I am really interested. What do I need to do? Um, so, and I do have your email, so I will also share that as well. Otherwise, um, I'm lost for words because to me, and this is just my opinion, to me, the system is amazing. Like to, it needs to be pushed. They need to allow it. I don't understand why they wouldn't, but they definitely need to allow
Well, I'd say that at the very least, they need to stop attempting to squelch it.
it.
They should support it. It's in the direct interest to support it, but that's a big lift. That's a big ask. Um, but they could at least stop breaking the law and the Constitution to stop it.
I agree. I definitely agree.
So I did. I dropped the link to the
Oh,
uh,
thank
the
you.
petition in the chat there.
Perfect. Thank you. I will make sure that is pinned. You guys have that. If you are interested and want to sign that petition, I know I'm definitely gonna sign it for you for sure. Because that's huge. Like it's really huge. Um, where is it? I don't see it.
Yeah. What I was talking about before with the 2%, the average growth rate of the U.S. economy over the last third to half century is actually 2% a year,
Mm.
which means that this would effectively double the growth rate of the economy. And if you're familiar with ideas around net present value is a linear function of two things. One, your current wealth, and two, the average growth rate of your wealth. And so doubling the average growth rate of your wealth doubles the net present value of your wealth. So this would
Wow.
effectively double the wealth of America if it were to be implemented here.
Okay. So what I comprehend is they don't want us to double our wealth.
That would appear to be the case, yes.
This is so backwards.
Yes, it very much is.
Okay, so I'm like,
It's been such I when I set off originally, I figured it was gonna be very difficult to do this, particularly because at the time, I was much better at explaining it in calculus than I was in English.
okay,
Uh, but I was not expecting people who were wealthy to be quite as resistant to becoming more wealthy. And I was not expecting the government to be adamantly opposed to improving the general welfare. I figured it would be difficult to explain these concepts to them, but that once explained, they would be on board. It turns out that not only is it difficult to explain the concepts to them, but they are generally repelled once they actually understand what I'm talking about.
wow, wow. It kind of makes you look at your government with the side eye.
I'm afraid it's not the only thing in my life that makes me look at my government that way. But yeah, this particular experience, um, I don't know if you've ever heard of Kafka's The Trial. They made a really good film adaptation with Anthony Perkins, which I saw back when I was in college, and it was
Mhm.
decades old even then. Um, and it sort of describes my life. Perkins plays this guy who's sort of a functioning-ish member of a society that seems superficially fine. It's a very surrealistic kind of expressionist film, and one day he finds himself accused of some
So,
incredibly heinous crime, uh,
mm,
but he doesn't know what it is. And nobody will explain it to him because it's so horrifying. How could he possibly need an explanation? In fact, how could he even be attempting to mount a defense? Shouldn't he just admit that he's guilty and throw himself on the mercy of these people that declare that they want to kill him? And
right.
so we sort of follow this character around as his situation becomes more paranoid and deranged.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where I've been going, is that each government department that I have attended uh, basically says we're not in the business of making Americans better off, and we also aren't in the business of doing anything else that it appears that our charter is attached to. We're just in the business of giving you hoops to jump through that have acid pits on the other side.
Oh my. I don't even know what to say at this point. Um, you would think that you would want your country to do better. You would want the people that make you rich.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I have to say that in conversations both with people in the government and with people in the financial system, there is. I have not encountered people who are attached to the reality that their money comes from somewhere. Uh, I had a conversation at the Agricultural Commodity Futures Trading Convention back in 2019, back when it existed before COVID. I think it's coming back out of deep freeze now, but I was talking to a gentleman who was a professional trader and was talking about the system and sort of how it works. Uh, and he asked me a very simple question. He asked me how much of the trade in the system is actual farmers and factories, what percentage of the trade in the system, and that's something I know. It's between 2 and 2.5% of the market is people that actually use the market for their businesses. And he said, okay, well, let's say your system can work and it's great for those people and they all just go away. Who cares? The market loses 2% of its volume. The market the market in corn can operate without any corn farmers in it. Traders can just trade with each other and it's fine. And so I asked him, like, where do you think the money comes from? Like, the money is coming from people that are buying that corn and other people that are selling that corn, and they aren't getting the full value of their trades. They're losing some to the hurly burly grind of 40 other people sticking their oar into that transaction. He was
Mhm.
like, it's only 2%. We can take the 2% hit. We can play our games. That's the only thing that matters. And that's how they feel about it. They're completely disconnected from where their money comes from or what their service is for, and that's led these services to become much less responsive, whether you're talking about the private sector or the public sector,
Right.
and uh, and they're not interested in doing a better job because they don't see how that affects them or their careers.
Interesting.
And when you explain to them this, you could earn hundreds of billions of dollars a year concept,
Mhm.
they cringe in fear.
I wonder why. It like
I I couldn't say.
it just
I'm
don't
not I'm not wealthy at a level that I am afraid of being wealthier.
wealthier, right? We're
It
trying to get
appears
there, but
right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe that would be great to be so wealthy that you're afraid that you might get richer, but I'm nowhere near there. And I haven't spoken to very many people in the
uh-huh.
top tiers of wealth, but or power. But that's what I get back when I do.
I just I don't get it. I don't get it. So you created this system, right, to help make the economy better. You have roadblocks because the government is blocking it either way you try.
That's a good summary. Yep.
Hmm, interesting. So you already have fire for next year, but you just want to also get a petition signed because the more that you have people supporting the software, you'll have a be able to put up a better fight.
Sure. Yeah. And uh, who knows what these group people are going to say? Patent court
Right.
isn't really a court; it's another piece of the executive branch.
Mhm.
So I'm basically, I'm in an office with a person that says, "Sorry, somebody, up the chain from me told me I can't help you. Why don't you go across the hall and see what he says about me not helping you?" Um, well, maybe the guy across the hall will say, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's all nonsense. Here, go ahead." But maybe he'll say, "I work in the same building. That guy talked to me too. I can't help you." So the next step after this is appeal to the actual courts, and
Mm,
step by step by step by step, we keep going until people actually do their jobs. But the bigger deal I can make it, the more I can get them to treat it like the big deal it actually is. So that's what the petition's there for.
I follow. Okay. So did I ask you the right questions?
I think so.
Is okay.
I think you're getting a sort of vague idea of what it is I'm talking
Yeah.
about. We don't have to get into the calculus. People that are
We
interested,
can
I've
because
got
I
a
love to learn. I'm sorry.
well, no. There is a white paper out there.
Okay.
You can go read up the calculus if you'd like to.
I follow.
Um, but it's a little hard to sort of conversationally explain
I
integral
got
equations just off the bat. I've done that on other shows, and
it. Mhm.
if you'd like to, we can do it here. But this kind of colloquial idea of how would you use it? What's it look like? How does it affect my life? That's the
Right.
important stuff for most people. How do you use the existing financial marketplaces? Well, you don't mostly. You've got a life that's attached to businesses that use those things, and the prices and goods that they get produce the stuff that you make your life out of.
Mm, okay.
And this would just make that process more efficient, which would make the prices you need to pay for the stuff that you use day to day less, and make the quality of the stuff that you use get are made for you day to day higher.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So the white sheet, do you like where will we find it?
Here, let me drop a link for that into the chat as
Yeah,
well.
please. Thank you.
In fact, I will put a few things here. There's the patent,
Thank you.
the white paper, and I commissioned a video that's up on YouTube that explains how the system works. So
Um,
there's a link to the patent. Um, let me see, or the information for the patent. What's going on with that? A link to the white paper and a link to the YouTube.
okay. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so I will tag all of those as soon as they come through. Oh, there it is. Okay, I found it. All right. Okay. I'm like, why are they not coming? Hold on. Found it. Okay. And then anything that you would like our investors to know?
Uh, well, not specifically, no. Again, just you can take a look at the materials that are out there. Feel free to reach out. Um, uh, I have a few different deals uh, that presently exist, and we can talk about other possibilities. But beyond the simple fact that this is the highest rate of return business model on the planet, I don't have anything sort of generically to say to potential investors.
Okay. All right. Dropping this other link. Oh, I put it in the wrong chat. One moment. Here we go. Okay. Got those. Do you have so people can reach out to you on how can they reach out to you or find you? I know you said LinkedIn.
Yeah, like I said, you can reach me directly through my email address. You can find me on LinkedIn, um, and those are the sort of two easy ways to get to me.
Video. Did we put what okay, oh, wait. I can drop your email, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't
Um,
see it. All right. Your email and LinkedIn. Okay. All right. Just want to make for sure I got all of your contact information because I actually, and then we got, let me see, where's the link to pending? You can find here. We got the petition.
yep, yeah. You've got a link right there in the chat that I can see.
Pending the white paper you can find here. Where to find it? The YouTube changes to the CDM patent. Okay, I found it. All right, cool beans. All right. Anything else that you want to discuss that we hadn't already?
Nope, I'm good. Thank
You're
you.
good. Oh, yay. Well, you're welcome. I want to say great job, amazing system. I'm glad that it works. Um, I'm glad that our interview worked out. I would be more than happy to sign the petition. And actually, I will do that today. And then I am also going to, I'll send the petition out and around too for those that want to sign and help get this pushed again. Like he said, you guys heard Noah, this will help the economy to increase, not decrease, you guys. Increase. We need this. So, everybody, please sign the petition. Investors, if you are interested in investing, I got all of his contact information right here. And Noah, in closing, would you like to provide our viewers and our listeners with some feedback?
Yeah. Well, um, this was a lot of fun. I think you're doing a great job here. You've got a good engagement, and you've got a good head on your shoulders. You understand that being wealthier is better. As I said, I don't get that from everybody,
Love to
and
hear.
and so yeah, this was great.
Thank you. That's really good to hear from you. A lot of times people don't acknowledge um, when it's due. So I really want to thank you for that. You don't know how important it is to hear that from you because you're so huge in the in today's economy growth, correct? And some people just don't understand. They don't understand. And I do. Or maybe they don't just care. Maybe they don't care. I have no idea.
It beats my Parajacks too. I don't really get what people are trying to pull here, but you know, I'll just keep swinging, and
Yes, you do.
we'll get there. We'll get there in the end.
We sure will. I'm gonna make for sure that um I check in a little later with that, and then I want to find out how this went next year. I'm gonna stay tuned in.
Excellent,
I promise I am. So we will have you again.
awesome.
Very exciting. All right, let me if you guys have any questions, don't forget to drop it in the chat, please. Drop it in the chat. I can email him later. Even if you guys see this tomorrow, still drop it. I will ask him and I will make for sure he gets it to where he will, if he responds, I will give you your answers as soon as he responds. All right.